Hi my lovelies, I'm Jen and this is Crifty Crafty.
Hi my lovelies, I hope you're all well. So today we're going to decorate a wooden block and we're going to use normal vinyl and stencil vinyl as well. So we're going to be making a stencil today. So the first thing I want to do is go and grab a square, and I'm just going to use this as a template for my block. So I'm going to size it up so it's the same size as my wooden block, and it just gives me a good idea of the space that I'm working with, and I can really get to grips with the design then because I know exactly the area of which I have to use. So once I've resized my block, I'm just going to go in and change the background color on it, and then I'm just going to get my text, and I've chosen Christmas Time from DaFont. DaFont is a great resource, and if you haven't used it before, please do go and watch our previous videos on DaFont. So once I've ungrouped my letters, I'm able to move them closer together, and I'm going to go in and weld each individual word. And if you haven't watched our previous tutorials on this, again, please do go and do so. It's great for cursive text. It's a really good technique. So the reason that I've done my words individually is because I wasn't sure how I wanted it to look. So now I can change my words, I can play with my words, but they're all as one. So once I'm happy, I'm then able to go in and highlight all and weld them. So the whole sentence is now one file, so it's all welded together. And I'm able to have a quick play and work out exactly how I want it to look on my block. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into images, and I downloaded a great file from Etsy which has about 30 stick people in it, and it was only a couple of pounds, and these are great. I love this file. I've got lots of files that I've bought from Etsy. Etsy is a great resource for SVGs, and there's so many wonderful designers on Etsy as well, so it's well worth having a look, and you can get some really great bundles as well. And I love these stick people files. I think they're great. There's so much that you can do with them, and they're so universal. So I'm just going to go in and reduce the size of my figures. And once I've reduced them down, I'm then able to go in and have a good play and work out how I want everything to be on my block. I can spend hours in Design Space. I get completely lost in Design Space and I play for ages, and the time just completely gets away with me. I love playing in Design Space. It's one of my favourite things to do. So once I'm happy with everything, I'm just going to hide my background and my text. I'm going to highlight my people and I'm going to weld them. And this welds them as one image, exactly the same as we did with our text. Now with my background, if I was cutting my text and my image as one, I would keep the background and I would have it as a weeding box. And again, if you don't know what a weeding box is, we do have a tutorial on this. But because I'm cutting one in stencil vinyl and one in vinyl, I'm going to remove that. And you can also see I've changed the colour so that they cut on separate mats. So you'll also see it's telling us that our image is too large, so we need to use a 12 by 20 format. And now we've come to our cut screen and we've got our two cuts. So with our stencil vinyl, so our text, we're going to go down to vinyl and we're going to choose the Cricut Stencil vinyl setting. And this will then allow us to cut out in the stencil vinyl. And between our matte cuts, please do remember to change your setting of your cut. So we would change it to vinyl. So you can see with our stencil vinyl that we do it exactly the same as any other vinyl. So we place it on the mat exactly the same, nothing changes. It will cut it out exactly the same. We don't have to reverse or do anything like that. So I've got my wooden block here, and I've got it from S&S Sign Blanks, and I've also got some Ronseal outdoor varnish, and I'm just going to go and varnish my block of wood. So this is an oak finish piece of wood, and you don't need to varnish it, but I like just to give it a clear satin coat. And I really go in and just work my varnish in. I try and get a nice thin even layer. You can see I'm using a sponge brush, and I really just work it into the wood. You are going to need to leave this to dry for some time. I will normally leave it overnight so it really does dry. I've got my vinyl cut out here, and as always I'm going round and I'm removing the vinyl from the outside of my image, so I'm then left with my image in vinyl, and I just go through and just weed it all away. Just take my time with weeding. Some images are really easy to weed and others can be incredibly tricky, and I find if they are becoming slightly tricky, you can just snip away your excess and it makes it slightly easier to handle as well. Then when you go in and you've removed your excess, you've then got what's left. Now the difference with stencil vinyl is rather than removing from the outside, you're actually going to remove your letters or your image from the inside. So you're then left with a recess where your vinyl should be. So the big difference is with normal vinyl, you weed and you're left with your image or your words, but with stencil vinyl, you remove your image or your words. And then I like to go through with my weeding tool and just make sure that everything is firmly stuck. And this will help with the transfer process as well. I just find it makes life so much easier if everything is really well kind of adhered and stuck down. You've got no bubbles, you've got no pieces lifting. Stencil vinyl can be a bit tricky, and I just think that this makes life a little bit easier. So I've got my transfer tape, and we transfer exactly the same way we would with normal vinyl. So we put our transfer tape onto our stencil vinyl, and we're just going to go through, make sure we've got no ridges or bubbles. And then we just get, you can see that I've got the two ends kind of not transferred. That's absolutely fine because my transfer is over my text. So then we go in with our scraper and just give it a really good scrape from the front. And then as always, I go and turn it over and scrape on the back as well. And I always do this, and I just think it makes it so much easier. And I always remove from the back as well. So I'm removing my backing paper rather than removing from the transfer tape. So our block is now all dry, and I've left that to dry overnight. And I'm just going to go and place my stencil on. So as always, I'm just going to hover first and make sure that I'm happy with the placement. And then once I am, I can go in with my scraper. Now, I like to really scrape down when I'm using stencil vinyl. You want to really go in there and give that a good rub. Make sure that you've got no bubbles. Now, when you're removing, you'll find it does lift slightly. I find the best way to remove the transfer tape with stencil vinyl is really nice and slowly. And then you go in and you really give it a good scrape. I have been known to scrape for a good 10 minutes. Remove every single bubble, make sure that everything is completely stuck down. The last thing you want is your paint to run. We don't want that at all. So today I'm just using some chalk paint, which I just got from my local DIY store. And I'm just going to go in and do a nice, even, thin coat to begin with. And just really go through and make sure that that's nice and even and that you cover the whole of your recess in your stencil. And I normally do one word at a time, and before I do each word, I make sure that all of that word is completely stuck down. I do go in with my scraper again and do each individual word. And then once it's all done, I leave it for about 5 minutes, and then I go in with a slightly thicker coat. But again, I want it to be nice and even. So while we're waiting for our paint to dry, we're going to go in and transfer our vinyl. And again, we're going to put our transfer tape over. We're going to give it a scrape on the front and move it over, and do from the back as well. And then, as always, I'm going to remove from my back as well. So I'm removing my backing paper. So my paint has been left to dry for about 15 minutes, and it's not completely dry, but it's not soaking wet either. And I find that this works really, really well. If you leave it to dry and it's dried for ages, you can get some pull up when you pull your stencil away. So I like to have it close to dry, but not completely dry. And then I leave it and take my middles out when it's dried. So once it's dried, I then go in with my picker tool from my Cricut weeding kit set, and I go in and remove my middle pieces from my stencils. So now I'm going to place my transfer tape onto my block. So I've got my image here, and I'm just going to transfer that the way I normally would. Now my paint has been dried for a few hours, but I still like to not completely put it over my paint. So I try and make sure that when I'm transferring, I'm only scraping my vinyl. So then I'm going to go in and just remove my transfer tape from my vinyl. And here we have our finished product, and I just think it looks absolutely beautiful. Now you could stencil all of it, or you could vinyl all of it. There's so many options that you can do. Now I have a love-hate relationship with stenciling. Sometimes it works great, and other times it's just a mess. It doesn't always work for me. I don't know why it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. I think sometimes I just have to be in the right mood to stencil. But the most important thing when you're using stencil vinyl is to really make sure that it's adhered to your surface, that you've got no lifts, you've got no bubbles, that it's really stuck on there, because otherwise you will get some bleeding, and you really don't want that. But when it works, it looks absolutely beautiful, and I think that this is a really lovely gift for any home. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Please do like, subscribe, and leave any comments, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye!
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'll see you all next time. Please do subscribe, like, and comment below. Bye!